Hi, I'm John. This is my show, An American Scheme, where I'm proving that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's actual mother, and that every Michael Jackson fan in the YouTube community is a fake Michael Jackson fan and they're actually slaves. So, Mattsftr, what he does here when he tries to give commentary about my videos and my work and stuff, what he does is diversion tactics. He can't deal with the issue at hand. What is the issue at hand? This is the only thing I'm here to talk about. I'm only here to talk about one thing. Is Diana Ross Michael Jackson's actual mother? And if she is, do I actually have the evidence that can prove it? That's all I'm here to talk about. But he always diverts away from that. That's the issue. So, and he always tried to say that, oh, John thinks he's a master and he thinks it's the only thing that's important. It's like, no, I'm trying to talk about one thing. Don't get freaking lost off in space like what he does. He wants to bring up every other thing to divert away from the actual question, the issue at hand. Is Diana Ross Michael Jackson's mom? That's why I'm here. Your page says you're a Michael Jackson advocate. You're all this stuff. That's why I freaking try and talk to you to see. It's like, okay, well, judge my work. Be a Michael Jackson advocate, be a Michael Jackson fan, be an intellectual person who actually has an opinion, and judge my work. But he's not capable of judging my work. He just constantly diverts away from it. So here, let's watch a little bit of the video here of what he says. Although, the other thing I just wanted to mention is that because he says things like about that, I think that my Diana Ross story is so important and everything and all this stuff. It's like, dude, no. Me saying that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's mom, okay, I can prove that. That's a fact. So like when he's saying, he also says that I don't say I'm ever wrong. No. Michael Jackson is the love child of Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson. I'm 100% right about that. And I actually have the evidence to back it up and I can prove it. And I'm totally right about that. Now, all of my investigation that I've done since like this YouTube page, An American Scheme, it's an ongoing investigation. And then interpretations I was making, like in the beginning when I made the first video where I was explaining the lyrics of Billie Jean, my interpretation of the lyrics now, it's developed because I've done an ongoing investigation. I've kept making my interpretations better and my explanations better. So to where I'm at now with my explanation, it's very much far more advanced than my first one. So it's like, you want to judge me off my first work and think that I'm not, you think that we live in a world that I'm not able to keep furthering my investigation and not to develop my answer better than what it was in the beginning. Of course I'll get better. That's how it goes. It's an ongoing investigation. Because in the beginning, he tries to act like I created my story. I didn't create my story, I found it. And I did an investigation which shows, like just a really quick one I can show you is like, when I gave my first explanation of the lyrics of Smokey Robinson's song Shop Around, I was saying that his mother was actually saying that he spoke to his mother and his mother told him, because I was saying that she would have known who Diana Ross was and stuff like that. But then I find out through my investigation that Smokey Robinson's mother died when Smokey was 10 years old. So my explanation saying that he spoke to his mother, that was totally wrong, right? But I leave that video there because it's one of those things about you got to show your work, okay? I want that to show because it shows the process of development that has happened through me doing a real investigation. At that time, I thought that those lyrics meant that, okay? But I've done more investigation, I realized that no, that was wrong. That part of it was wrong because his mother was dead and shit, right? So here, let's just go and listen to this a little bit.
But as soon as you get out of the fucking matrix and look at hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of different things all around the world.
Okay, see, that's what I told you. It's diversion tactics. We're talking about Diana Ross being Michael Jackson's mom, but he wants to talk about hundreds and thousands, maybe millions of things around the world. Look at, and watch, I'll let him speak right here. I'll tell you what he's talking about.
From things that are in your face to things that are more hidden, like government stuff, Illuminati type stuff, deep state, big tech, all these. Okay, all those other things. What do any of those things have to do with Diana Ross being Michael Jackson's mom? Oh my God. That's what I'm saying is like, these people are slaves. They are screwed in the head. They can't deal with one simple issue. What's the issue? Is Diana Ross Michael Jackson's real mother? And if she is, do I have the evidence to back it up? That's all I'm asking. That's it.
I'm not telling you to explain the whole world and the universe and every people's like all that stuff. We're not talking about that. I'm trying to talk about one issue. And the reason this issue is so important is because it can be proven. And once it's proven, it proves that the media is deceptive, because Michael Jackson is known as a Jackson, and he died as a Jackson, right? So when the people get exposed to that kind of level of deception, then that can open the door for them to then start re-looking into the other things, the government and the God issues and all the deep state stuff. Now, let me just give you a thing talk about deep state, right? I know Mattsftr likes Donald Trump, and I know that he thinks like Fox News tells good information. Okay, Fox News right now is showing you UFOs. They're saying these are UFOs. This is released government secret documents, right? They're showing you these UFOs. Okay, so we're in a world now that Fox News is documented as showing released secret government documents with these UFOs. Now, UFOs, that's the kind of thing that would be a touchy subject for people to deal about. You're talking about aliens from other planets. You're talking about powerful creatures that can manipulate our defense systems and stuff like that, right? You're talking about extremely difficult situations. So if they're like saying, oh, well, we don't want to expose this to the public because the public could be hurt by this and they can't handle it, it could really mess with them, okay? So what I want you to understand, though, is that they're showing that, but they still have failed to show an airplane crashing into the Pentagon. Okay, so the reason for not showing an airplane crashing into the Pentagon can't be that they're concerned about the welfare of the humans and their mental psyche and their abilities and their standings in the world and stuff. It can't be anything like that, because they're clearly showing us right now UFOs and it's secret, it's government released secret documents and shit, you know? It's all this stuff. So what they're showing us right now is much more of like something that's hard to deal with as being humans, right? Than it would be like for us to see an actual airplane crashing into the Pentagon. But they won't show that. They won't ever show that. Why won't they show it? Because all 9/11's all fake and shit, right? And then the other thing is that Fox News, see, Matt's not even a freaking American and shit. First of all, he's not American. He doesn't live in America. He thinks he knows what it's like to be an American. He doesn't. He's freaking Canadian. He's not an American. So, Fox News, when the election was just happening, Fox News said that Biden won the state of Arizona. It took over another 24 hours. It was another day until CNN said that Biden won Arizona. So the discrepancy there, it's massive. You can't have one news station claiming victory for Biden in a state that's close. Arizona was a close state. That's a close state. There was no way that he didn't run away with it. It's not like California and you say, okay, frickin' Biden won California. Okay, yeah, of course. Everybody understands that. We don't need to frickin' really check the records and shit. He was going to win California. But a state like Arizona, it should have went to Trump. Okay, so that's a state that's like, you can't announce that Biden won that unless it's like, you got to be deep, deep into the results coming out, which CNN didn't release for another day. So Fox News, the station that's supposed to be defending of Trump and is supposed to be the station that supports the conservative people, the Republicans, they're the ones who issued the statement that Trump lost Arizona. Now, because he's talking about deep state and government stuff and all that and all the stuff what he's talking about, right? So it's like, just like stuff like that, it's like, you don't talk about anything, Matt. You can't even recognize the stuff that they're doing to you as it's happening in real time. You can't even recognize it while it's going on. Like I said, if Fox News was real and they were actually telling real news, how come they can't show a video of an airplane crashing into the Pentagon? I've never seen that. You ask them to show it to you, they'll start turning into, all of a sudden you'll see CNN reporters, they'll turn into CNN real quick, and they'll start insulting you and start calling you crazy and all this stuff. And it's like, well, show me the video then. They can't do it. right? But Matt wants to talk about all that stuff, right? But he's not even capable of having those conversations either. You'll never hear him. And he tries to say that I'm not capable. It's like, dude, you can't even recognize when the shit's happening right in front of you in real time. You can't even recognize what's going on. But you want to talk about that stuff, right? You're going to explain to everybody how Illuminati. You don't know anybody in the Illuminati, Matt. You've never actually had a conversation with somebody in the Illuminati. You don't know anything about it. You know what people have told you. That's it. You don't know anything about the government. You're not in the government. You don't know anything about it. You don't know anything about the tech industry. You're not in the inside stuff. Like, here, let's talk about that. You say I can't talk about any of that stuff? Okay. Facebook, right? Mark Zuckerberg. You know who his wife is? His wife is a refugee from Vietnam, but she was actually from China. She's a Chinese person who went to Vietnam, who was then able to infiltrate into America as a refugee of Vietnam, a Vietnamese refugee, right? So then when she comes to America, where does she go? She goes to live right over like in Massachusetts. I think it's in somewhere around Boston, Massachusetts, where the ITT Tech and what's Harvard and stuff. Those the schools that are the most advanced places, right? Then what does she do? She ends up snuggling up to Mark Zuckerberg, and then she marries him. Okay, and then isn't it fair to say that maybe she's a freaking Chinese spy? But have you even had that thought? Are you even capable of seeing the reality of what's taking place right in your face? Like, here's another thing. Facebook is actually, there's a thing called a CIA circle. And so what the CIA would do is they would go to any they could go to any location in the world. You put a dot in the middle and you put a circumference of 50 miles around that. That's called a CIA circle. And what the CIA does is they study what information is available within that circle, because they know that most people live and die their entire lives and their whole existence exist within that circle. So all they've got to do is go look at the religious leaders in that place. They got to look at the artist in that place. Look at what books people are reading. Look at the education that's taken place in there. All the stuff like that. Through that process, they will understand the mind and the psyche of the people that live within that CIA circle. Okay, so that's what Facebook is. Facebook was not created as a platform to let people have encounters with people. No, it was designed to get people to expose their contacts and the ideology of the things they believe in and stuff like that. So then the CIA can then put a better understanding of what's taking place in this circle and in this circle. It's like, oh, I'm not the one that's capable of having these discussions, Matt. You don't even know this stuff even exists. That's why I can't have a conversation with you, because you're so fucking illiterate, dude.
Really important, deep things that people like you don't even have the capacity to think about.
Yeah, I don't have the capacity to talk about and think about.
How dumb you are.
Oh, yeah.
But instead, you created
so he just insulted. Okay, I created.
It's the only thing you want to talk about.
Okay, I did not create my story. I made a discovery, and I did an investigation. You're the one that can't even deal with the realities of what's actually taking place. And because of that, you falsely judge me. You put false judgments on me because you're stupid and you're a fucking slave. You're the one doing it. You can't deal with any reality. When I simply come to you, your whole page says Michael Jackson advocate, but you can't have a conversation about Michael Jackson? It's like, what world do we live in? When you claim to be a Michael Jackson advocate, you're not even capable of having a fucking conversation about Michael Jackson. And then since you're not capable of having it, you bring up you create these conspiracy theories about me. That's you. You can't deal with reality, so you fucking falsely judge me and you create your own conspiracy theory. You fucking off in fucking Wonderland. You're fucking a nut.
About and you refer to yourself as a master of this theory, hence why you created it.
Well, see again, why I created it. I'm not a master. I simply make one statement that I know for sure that Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson are Michael Jackson's real parents. No doubt about it. I bet my house on it. I freaking scream to anybody. I challenge every single Michael Jackson fan in here. Nobody dares. They don't dare to stand up to me. That's like, okay, go ahead. I tell them, judge my work. Judge my work. Tell me what you see. Once you actually see my work and my explanation, then give me your opinion. Is he even capable of doing that? No.
And because of that, you can just keep calling yourself a genius because you don't talk about anything else. You could never beat me in a debate about the world or a life.
Okay, beat me in a debate. First of all, it's a pointless fucking, it's a futile effort. Debating somebody, you see the words when he says, beat me in a debate. I'm not interested in trying to win a debate. I'm interested in having intellectual conversation which can further my advancement, my knowledge and experience in the world. I'm not here to win a debate against you, because the words of trying to win a debate, that means when he's having a discussion with somebody, he's not trying to have a discussion where he's absorbing the knowledge. They're both giving back and forth knowledge, and I'm going to take from your interpretations of what this is, and you take from my interpretations, and then that helps lift both of us, which could be better understanding for everything, right? No, he's trying to win the debate. He got to win the debate. It's like, dude, because you're an idiot. That's how you were taught in this world as a slave, that you got to win the debate. Oh, if you want to be smart, go debate somebody, and you got to win because you're a slave. You can't even frickin' understand on your own the actual process of why the beneficial things that come from having a fucking intellectual conversation with somebody. No, you got to win. You got to win the debate. I won. Only a fucking total loser like you would have to be fulfilled by winning the debate. Oh, well, I said this. I proved him wrong on that. I won. My God, you're fucking pathetic.
The only thing you can do is debate about this Diana Ross thing, and no matter what, you will always come out on top or right. And
so right now he's going to give some psychological explanation of what I'm doing. But now what you're actually going to see, this is called see, I'm not in that place, so it's a self-reinforcing delusion. See, I could be totally saying that. I'm not a freaking psychologist, but because I'm not a psychologist doesn't mean I don't understand psychology. It just means that I don't know the actual terms of what they use. It's the same thing in medicine. It's like, okay, if I broke my arm, I can go to the doctor and I say I broke my arm. But he'll say, oh, you had a rupture of the frickin', the femur bone, or let's say the knee, because I know they call that the meniscus, right? So if I went to the doctor and I'd say, oh, I screwed up my knee, right? And he'd say, oh, you had a dislocation of the meniscus. Okay, because he used the word meniscus and I used the word knee, that doesn't mean that we're not talking about the same thing. We're talking about the same thing. So what Matt's actually doing here is I believe it's called a self-reinforcing delusion. A self-reinforcing delusion. I believe that's what it's called. So the delusion that Matt has is that I created my story, because he can't deal with the reality that my story's true, right? And instead of looking at the evidence of what I actually put forth, which he can't do, he creates this theory, right? And he creates a theory he's basing this theory of this analysis of what he's going to do, he's basing it upon that my story's not true. Okay, well, how do you know my story's not true? You haven't looked at the evidence. You're not capable of looking at the evidence because you're a slave and you're a weak-minded, total freaking loser, right? And so what this is, by him creating this psychological definition of who I am, that's actually him. It's a self-enforcing delusion. It's a delusion. He's delusionary to not think that my story's true and that I haven't proven it and that I made it up. That's his delusion. And so now he's going to create this as a self-reinforcing delusion. So this is what he's actually doing.
By the way, there's actually a reason for that too. The reason is because it's a concept that you wouldn't know about because you're not smart. But it's referred to as disproving a negative. If you don't know what disproving a negative means, it basically means that if a person makes a statement that can't be proven true or false.
That can't be proven true or false. Oh shit. It's like, dude, I more than welcome you to look at my evidence. Okay, if my evidence can't be proved, well then look at my evidence and explain to me how the evidence of what I'm showing you cannot be judged as real evidence. Go ahead. I welcome you more than all the time. It's like, judge my work. but you'll never see a video of him where he actually looks at the evidence of what I put forth and hear him say, that's not real evidence. That doesn't explain anything, you know? And then to counter it, why doesn't it explain anything? You'll never hear any of that stuff from him because he's delusion. It's a delusion and it's a self-reinforcing delusion. His delusion is that I've created this story instead of I've made a discovery. He doesn't understand the difference. I didn't create anything. I made a discovery. Now, I've created interpretations through the process of my investigation. I'm having to give my interpretations, of course. And some of those interpretations are wrong at times. But then I keep going, I keep doing the investigation, and I advanced my understanding of the thing to where we get to the point now we're at the point where it's like, okay, I've done more than enough. And I'm willing to stand up to anybody because I've got hard evidence and hard data to back up what I'm saying.
Therefore, it can't be challenged. So
it can't be challenged. I welcome everybody. Challenge me. Challenge me. You know, it can't be challenged because I'm right. That's the problem. And he's delusionary, and he's doing this to self-reinforce his delusion to make himself think in some world he thinks that he's smart and he thinks that he's right when he just can't deal with one issue. Do I actually have the facts to prove that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's mom? Do I or don't I?
The person who made that statement can forever just say, well, I'm right because you didn't prove me wrong. That's called disproving a negative, where a person just says something.
Okay, so I just say something. Now here, I'm going to show you a piece of evidence. So now, am I just saying this or is this evidence? Okay, so here's Diana Ross. Now, my whole story started with, could Diana Ross be Michael Jackson's mom? That's how it all started. Then that created an investigation. I had to go do the research and stuff, right? So now, if Diana Ross wasn't Michael Jackson's mother, what I say is like this right here, this kind of thing would never exist. You would never hear this thing because even if it was true, she wouldn't tell you about this because she's talking about Smokey Robinson and in Smokey Robinson's band. So when she's saying down here, she would listen to the Miracles play down in the basement. Okay, well in that band is Claudette. Claudette is actually the first woman signed to Motown Records. She's the first female artist signed to Motown Records. And then she shortly after what she's talking about where she's sleeping with him, shortly after that, Claudette marries Smokey Robinson and has like a 25-year marriage where he has 2 kids. Now, if Diana Ross is supposed to be respectful, you know, of the black community, she's respectful of Motown and women, there would be no reason for her to ever be acknowledging this, what she's going to tell you right here.
And who was your first love, though? Yeah, who was that?
You mean, are you talking about man love?
Oh, yeah, I should have specified that. I'm sorry.
Smokey Robinson was my first love. I really loved him.
Okay, so did I make that up? So now, this is Diana Ross telling you Smokey Robinson is her first love. I really loved him. Okay, so she's not even 14 years old at the time of what's occurring when she starts talking here. So Diana Ross, when she goes back to tell you about her first love, she's telling you about Smokey Robinson when she was not even 14 years old. Smokey Robinson, who married Claudette, the first female artist signed to Motown. And and she's in the band The Miracles, you know? So you're just gonna tell me that this is acceptable for you? This is acceptable for Diana to be having this conversation? But the truth is, Diana wants the world. She had to leave behind pieces of evidence so that somebody could do a proper investigation, which happened to me, that somebody could go back and when somebody did a real investigation, they would have this information to find. Now, is it more likely that she's just going to be saying this stuff, or is it more likely that she's trying to leave behind evidence to explain that Michael Jackson's her actual son? Now, so like, I didn't know Smokey Robinson was the father. When my investigation starts, I don't know. So if I go and when I look at the time, because first of all, right off of the bat, when I go to find out Diana Ross is not even 14 years old at the time that Michael Jackson's conceived. So at the time of which she got pregnant, she's not even 14 years old. What was the chance I was going to find information of her saying that she's in love with somebody else? Not only that she's in love, because on here she's going to explain how she's sleeping in his house. She's not even 14 years old. What was the chance? See, this is what I'm saying, the difference between Mattsftr saying that I created this or did I discover it. That's the whole difference. I didn't create this. What was the just simple question of reality? What was the chances I was going to find out that Diana Ross was sleeping in Smokey Robinson's house at the time that Michael Jackson's conceived? And not only is she saying that she's sleeping in his house, she's proclaiming that she's in love with him. Her first real love, her first man love. I did not create this. This is evidence of which Mattsftr completely disregards because he's under the delusional impression that my story's been created by me. And then he keeps relating all this. He wants to talk about all these millions of other things like he just told you. You can't talk about all these thousands and millions of other things that are important. Well, because I'm here talking about one thing. There's one thing I'm here to talk about, this. And why would I talk about or have a conversation about all of those other things when you, being this big Michael Jackson advocate, you can't even deal with this? Why would I trust your opinion on anything else in the world?
I have stories. People think my life or my career started with Motown, but
right there. Okay, so I have stories. People think my life or career started with Motown. Okay, she's explaining shit here. She's telling you people think differently than what the true story is. And what the true story is this.
It started with Smokey. Smokey lived on Belmont. We lived on the same street. Mm-hmm. I was very close with his cousin, Sharon Burston. Mm-hmm. And I used to sleep over. You know how kids have sleepovers at Sharon's house. And I used to listen to the Miracles sing in the basement. And that was before I came to Motown. That was before the Supremes. And to me, I loved him.
So right there, she just told you the whole thing. She told you how it happened. She told you how she was able to sleep in Smokey Robinson's because she's friends with, it's actually Smokey Robinson's niece. And this is the thing about Mattsftr is like always trying to put out, when people say little things wrong, it's like, dude, okay, well, she's not reading off of a script. And when you're speaking in that fashion, you have all these thoughts going through your head and stuff. And sometimes, and now she definitely knows that Sharon Burston is Smokey Robinson's niece, but she refers to her as Smokey Robinson's cousin. Okay? Little things like that happen. That doesn't disregard, does that mean that the whole story is a lie? But that's what Mattsftr does. Like if I say something a little bit wrong or a little bit out of context, he's not smart enough to understand that's like, okay, well, I'm not reading off a script here. I've got all these different thoughts I'm trying to relate right now in this short period of time, and I'm doing the best I can. And of course, I'm going to say little things wrong, which Diana Ross just said something wrong, and that's her friend Sharon Burston. And she talked about in Smokey Robinson. She just told you her whole career Smokey, and she lived down the street from Smokey. You don't think that she knows that Sharon Burston is Smokey Robinson's niece? Because Smokey's her uncle. So that's the daughter of Smokey Robinson's sister is Sharon Burston. And Smokey Robinson's sisters, he has two older sisters. One's 14 years older than him and one's 17 years older than him. So when Smokey Robinson's mother died when Smokey was 10 years, see, like I didn't know, I had to do the investigation to find out this stuff. So when Smokey Robinson's mother died when Smokey Robinson was 10 years old, Smokey Robinson's, one of the older sisters, I think it's the oldest one, she moved in and into Smokey's house. Okay, so Smokey didn't have to leave the house. She moved into that house that where Diana Ross lives right down the street on Belmont. That's on Belmont before that they go live in the Brewster Douglas housing projects. So that house right there, Smokey's living in that house with his oldest sister, but his oldest sister's married and she's got like 6 kids, I believe it is. So one of her kids, because she's 17 years older than Smokey, so one of her kids happens to be the same age as Diana Ross, the same age. They go to school together. They're best friends. Because of that, she tells you, because Diana Ross was friends with Sharon Burston, she would have sleepovers at Sharon Burston's house. She would have sleepovers at Sharon's house. She's staying the night. But she's telling you right here, not only is she sleeping in that house, she's actually in love with him. So in that situation, you have a young Diana Ross in love with Smokey Robinson, and she's sleeping in that house after listening to the Miracles playing down in the basement. So you know Diana Ross is totally infatuated with Smokey Robinson, but she's got a problem. Claudette's in the band. That's Smokey's girlfriend. So Diana can't be Smokey's girlfriend. So what does she do? When Claudette goes home after the band practice, but Diana gets to stay the night because Diana's there with Sharon. And so what I'm saying is like, in that moment in history, is it feasible for me to come up with the conclusion that maybe Diana Ross had sex with Smokey Robinson, and if they had sex, why couldn't she have gotten pregnant? Why not? That's what happens. Boy has sex with the girl gets pregnant. Okay? But she's 14 years old, because now right here when she talks about, because I realized that you can make a record. Okay, now this goes to motive. Now this is the motive for the whole thing of why they give the kid away.
Because there was a time where when I first heard his record on the radio and I realized that you might be able to sing and make a record, I mean, it was like major time. So I think maybe... So she realized that you can actually sing and make a record. And why did she hear Smokey and have him actually have a record and see how it's the first time she heard him? So this is what happened, is that Smokey Robinson met Berry Gordy in August of 1957. Okay, so Smokey Robinson meets Berry Gordy. That is the foundation of the start of Motown Records. So all of Motown Records started at that moment, because Berry Gordy is a song record and he's in the Brunswick record studio. He's not building Motown. He doesn't have artists working for him. He's not developed. It starts when he meets Smokey Robinson. Smokey Robinson is Berry Gordy's first artist, of which he starts to build what is later to be known as Motown Records. It's all about Berry and Gordy. Berry and Smokey, they start working together. Now they meet in August of 1957. So a few months after Smokey Robinson and Berry Gordy meet, this is just a simple fact. A few months after they meet, Michael Jackson's conceived. Okay, so at that time, now that's what I'm saying, it's like in history, when I started to look back on this, what was the chances I was going to find that Diana Ross is sleeping in somebody else's house at basically I always say 14 because she's almost 14. So what was the chances I was going to find that she was sleeping in somebody else's house and that she's claiming to be in love with that guy? What was the chances that I would find that information if my story's not true? That's what I say. It's like, if my story's not true, would that exist? Should this exist? It should not exist. You should never be hearing this story unless my story's true. The only reason she's actually telling you about it, because she wouldn't be telling you. Why is she telling you about this? She's 14 years old. Why would she bring up anything about being in love with Smokey Robinson, who's already involved in a relationship with Claudette, who is a Motown artist too? Why is she even talking about this? There's no reason for her to be having this conversation. But there she is. She's telling you this conversation because the son that spawned off that is Michael Jackson. Now, if that kid wasn't Michael Jackson and wasn't the well-known star and everything, that's another thing. She wouldn't even be saying this stuff. Because let's say she did have a kid and abandoned the kid and the kid's just out there. Well, then she wouldn't be saying this stuff, because she wouldn't want you to be hunting down the fact to find out that she had a kid that she abandoned that ended up freaking getting killed in a car crash and shit when he was young, or whatever his life could have been. It could have been anything different, right? She never would have brought that up. But the kid's Michael Jackson. She wants you to know that her kid that she had with Smokey Robinson is Michael Jackson. And so she tells you right there when she first hears the record. So that's what happens. She sees that Smokey is starting to hook up with Berry Gordy. Berry Gordy's an established songwriter. He's kind of famous. He's writing songs for Jackie Wilson. He's writing other songs too. He's kind of famous. And then when Berry Gordy starts to work with Smokey, now Diana Ross sees Smokey's hooked up with a real person, and they're starting to build a record company, right? So at that time, when Diana Ross being the opportunist, this is why Diana's Dirty Diana and why she's like a groupie. When Michael's referring to Diana Ross, Dirty Diana, and is a groupie and stuff like that, this is what it's about. Because Diana Ross groupied up, like she just said, I realized that you could make a record. Okay, well, she's like a groupie, but she's more than a groupie. She's a gold digger. She's a gold digger. And that's how she becomes the boss. That's how she names the boss. But she tells you when she hears the first record, it's like, I could show you the dates and all that stuff. I have all that stuff. But just her telling you that I realized that you could make a record and it'd be on the radio, that shows you that what the time of what she's talking about right there is the time of what I'm saying, from when she gets pregnant and when
she decides then the motive then to give the child away, because now they've got a problem. Berry Gordy is trying to promote Smokey Robinson. But now there's a girl in the neighborhood, a 14-year-old girl. And Berry Gordy trying to build his company, and if you know anything about Motown, you know that image is like of a paramount importance to Berry Gordy. He wasn't going to build his company around the possibility of that scandal breaking out. Okay, that's what a motive is. Okay, so not only do I got like proof, and I've got the opportunity, I've got the motive, opportunity, evidence, all of that stuff wrapped up in just, this is just one little video. I got all kinds of other stuff. Like here. So then all of that stuff, like of what I'm saying, that the connection between them is more that it's the Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's actual mother. And then you go to, this is Michael Jackson's will. See over there, you see there's Michael Jackson. Okay, so then he, gives to Catherine Jackson guardianship of the children, but if she fails to live up to her obligations, he nominates Diana Ross. So there's another thing. Like I said, I didn't make that up. When you go to looking at Michael Jackson's will, who does he put in that position of guardian over his children? First, Catherine, because that's the one he's got to do. That's the family of what he's, the lies become the truth, and he is a Jackson. So he gives it to Catherine. But right after that, who does he put in there? Diana Ross. Doesn't put Janet Jackson. That's not Janet Jackson's name. That's not Jermaine Jackson's name. That's not Tito Jackson's name. That's not anybody. Who does he put? Diana Ross's name appears there. This is in his will, in the position that would be a guardian over his children. So Catherine and then Diana Ross. I didn't make this stuff up. Why is this stuff there? Why is it there? If Diana Ross was not like Michael Jackson's actual mother, would she be in that position? Would it be her? Or would have Michael have said, oh, well, what about his brothers? All of his brothers? So none of the brothers? None of them that were qualified enough to fall into that position? No. Who does he put in that position? Diana Ross. I didn't make that up. I didn't create that. That's what Matt, he's saying, I created this stuff. I didn't create this. Here's Diana. I've got Diana at the time of which the evidence should not exist of her sleeping in another man's house and being in love with him. She's not even 14 years old. That evidence should not exist. This, Diana being in Michael's will right after this should not exist. But it does exist. I didn't create this. This is not something I'm saying, look, this creates it and you can't disprove it. It's like, dude, no, this proves my story. That's the whole thing. And you're more than willing to challenge any of my conclusion and counter it with some kind of evidence. But then I get to make another video responding to your response video and stuff, right? So when you make a response to me, that's not the end of the story. I get to answer. You want to challenge me? Fine. But then I get to come back and give you an answer for your conclusions, and we'll see if your conclusions hold up. I'm more than willing to let anybody challenge. I go to every Michael Jackson fan out there, and it's like, okay, well, if you've got some evidence and you think you can challenge this, go ahead and challenge it. And then I will respond to it, and I will show you how I counter that with better evidence, and how the real evidence, when you actually look at what evidences actually exist out there. And now this is not the story that's being told. All of the evidence of what these people got, they've got all the media backing them up. They've got all the history of the Jacksons backing them up. And I'm still willing to challenge any of them, and none of them will stand up to my challenge. So who's the delusional one out here? Matt's FTR is clearly delusional. Who's the one making stuff up? Matt's FTR, because he can't deal with any kind of facts and the reality. He can't deal with it. So he creates this, oh, John's created this, he's crazy, he's psychotic, he's created this thing. It's like ridiculous. Dude, deal with the fucking facts of the case, which you can't do, Matt, and you're going to spin it off to, oh, I want to talk about these other thousands and million things. Well, I don't see your page saying you're an advocate for fucking human rights on your page. I see your page saying you're an advocate for Michael Jackson. So why don't you advocate for Michael Jackson and actually prove why he's not a pedophile? Because through the process of me explaining how he's Peter Pan, you can't explain how he's Peter Pan. You can't explain that he's not a pedophile, because I can prove that he's sleeping in beds with kids. Improper. I can prove that. So there's nothing that you'll ever do in the world that disproves that Michael did not have the opportunity to maybe be a pedophile. You can't prove that. There's nothing you can do. Everybody knows that Michael Jackson was sleeping in beds with kids. and taking kids on trips with them and loving on those kids and hugging on them and doing all kinds of shit. So the evidence of that will always exist, and people will always think Michael Jackson's a pedophile no matter what, because there's nothing you can do to stop that from happening. Everybody knows he was sleeping in bed with kids. But what actually proves that he's not a pedophile and explains why he's Peter Pan and how he ends up remaining a virgin and having a connection to children and stuff, when you find out that he was abandoned as a child, that he's not actually a Jackson, that actually proves it. But Michael Jackson, Mattsftr, the Michael Jackson advocate, doesn't think that real evidence matters because he's freaking stupid slave, like I keep saying.